Hello and welcome to the first ever SAF Virtual Town Hall. I'm Danielle Watson, SAF's Director of Policy and Public Affairs, and I'll be your moderator for today. We're really excited that you're able to join us, and thank you all so much for those who submitted questions in advance. Before we get started, I'm going to address some basic housekeeping items. If you need any technical assistance during the event, please email cf@safnet.org. Also, if you want to connect solely to the audio, you can dial in the number and passcode posted on the slide. Please note that your camera, microphone, and chat box are all disabled. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Tammy and Terry will be kicking us off with opening remarks, and then I'll be moderating a Q&A session based on questions already submitted and those added via the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen. Simply move your mouse or touch the screen on your device for the Q&A icon to appear. We'll do our best to address as many questions as possible, but we certainly won't be able to address all of your questions today. So after the event, we're going to work to provide answers to some of the most common questions and let you know when those are available. Additionally, the town hall is being recorded and will be accessible on Forest Ed for future viewing. Without further ado, I'm honored to welcome SAF's President, Tammy Cushing, to the stage. So Tammy, the stage is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. And as Danielle said, our first ever attempt at doing this. The intent was really just to kind of reach out and get a chance to know everybody. This is not the year I anticipated, as I'm sure it isn't for anybody. I was super excited. Part of the job of president is to travel around the country. And so I had all these wonderful trips to exotic locations like Alaska and then to Rhode Island and South Dakota. And instead of getting to those exotic locations, I'm hanging out in Oregon. And Oregon's not a bad place to hang out, but I'm hanging out in the house, in the four walls with my husband and two teenagers. So this has presented challenges for all of us. Certainly not the working environment we all envisioned. Unlike some of you, I'm not a field forester, and so I don't have forest to go out and to escape into, so it's me and my computer sitting here in my office at home. So we're all balancing all of our normal multiple roles just in new and exciting ways at this time. I certainly have missed interacting with my students. I teach at Oregon State University. I mentor some grad students. I work in extension, so I'm missing my landowners. And then I'm missing my colleagues, and I'm missing the opportunity to meet SAF members around the country, which is really, for me, one of the exciting parts of being in leadership in SAF is getting to meet membership around the country, specifically really getting to meet some of those students as you move around. So despite all that, we're moving on anyway. We have really no choice. I think we're in month 2. I've kind of lost track of time, but we had to get things done. So the board met anyway. The board normally meets the beginning of May in Washington, D.C., in Bethesda. And this year we had planned to try out Portland, and then COVID happened. And so we were lucky enough to use Zoom to do a riveting all-day Zoom meeting on a Saturday. I'm sure you all are extremely jealous of the fun we had. But we had a great, really productive call. We're all getting a lot of Zoom meetings at this point, so maybe not everybody's favorite thing to do. And it really does not give you all the same connections, but it does make work more efficient in a lot of ways. In that board meeting, we were able to pass 3 policy position statements that were up for renewal. So the National Policy Committee has been hard at work. We passed one on genetics, the use of genetically improved organisms, genetically improved trees. My apologies. We had one on fragmentation and our concerns about that on private land, and then one on forest management. And then we also approved the development of a couple new ones, one on recreation on private lands, and then one on certification. So The policy committee will be hard at work on those this year, as well as a couple others that are up for renewal. So you may see through your various working groups and through state societies some invitations to provide some input to those position statements early on in the process. The other committees are also really hard at work. The National Leadership Development Committee, I know, has been working. They have a really ambitious program together of what they want to get done this year. It's a great group of people. We have committees working all through SAF like that, and none of that stops just because of where we're working from. Most of our committees, if you've not been involved, work remotely anyway, so this is really not any change of normal operations for them. Like many of you, probably my biggest disappointment this year is the decision that was made for us regarding our annual convention. For me, it's convention, it's celebration, it's kind of the culmination of our SAF year. And it's, if you've been, you know, it's a time where you're getting together with old friends and making new friends, learning from each other, and then of course celebrating accomplishments of our peers. And so it's a big deal. You know, it's one of those events that every year I've looked forward to. This would have been the 25th convention I had attended, and so I was really looking forward to that. But this wasn't a decision that we had to make. It was made for us, and in some ways that's good, and in other ways it's harder. But I think we need to look at it as an opportunity. Terry will talk more about this, but it's a chance to try out some new methods. Like I said, you get to see all your old friends at convention. Part of that's because a lot of us go year after year. And so this virtual convention will allow people to go that don't normally get to go. So if travel has been an impediment, this is the year that you're not alone. None of us are going to travel. And so we're going to see how that worked. It's not going to be exactly the same. In some ways it's going to be better. In other ways, you're going to miss what we normally do. And we hope that everything is back to as close to normal as possible so that we can have our in-person convention next year. So I don't know what's coming for the rest of 2020. My crystal ball does not work. I do tax law. I don't try to guess. And I'm not certainly a medical doctor. I'm going to try to figure out what the heck, or even when Oregon is going to let me go back into my building. We just don't know. What we do know is that we need to support each other through all of this. And I would specifically tell you that I think we need to support the younger professionals and our students. You know, the young professionals might be a little bit concerned about their job right now as we are looking at how mills are reacting, how different employers are reacting. Maybe it's their spouses, maybe they have young kids and they're trying to balance being a teacher by day and a parent and a worker all at the same time. One of my goals coming into the year was really to reach out to that student population. I work with them, so I feel that draw to them. We know they're our future. We say it all the time, but I guess this year it needs to be more than lip service. They are facing uncertainty like many of us have never experienced. I have a college freshman. She's downstairs all day on Zoom trying to learn through her engineering classes online. So it's not the environment any of us studied in. It's not the same as having the teacher right there for you. The teachers are learning, the students are learning. So it's a challenge for them. And for our forestry students, they didn't go into forestry to sit at a computer all day. They wanted to be outside. They wanted to be out in field school. That's going to be a challenge for most of the programs this year, is how are they going to deal with field school? And so these students are just different right now, and we need to support them. Some of them are graduating with no fanfare. They might be the first one in their family to graduate college, and there'll be no celebration of the magnitude that most of us are used to, where they're walking across the stage. We need to support them through this however we can. They might have lost their job already. I know of students that had a job lined up that has evaporated already. Internships are no longer certain at this point. what I ask is that you encourage them and that you engage them any way you can. Um, as your state society or your local chapter is trying to figure out how to engage with each other, think about reaching out to students who are in your home area. And maybe it's a mock interview with those students. How can you support them and let them know that you're there? We're all going to emerge from this, I hope, stronger. I think as a society, SAF is continuing to plug forward, and we're gonna come out of this in good shape. So anyway, I just wanted to start with that. I'm going to go ahead and welcome our SAF CEO, Terry Baker.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks everybody for making the time to be with us this afternoon for an hour just to check in and see how everyone's doing and share a little bit about what's going on. And there's obviously been a lot going on. So yeah, like Tammy mentioned, we're ended month 2, and I think I'm probably close to month 3. And I just want everyone to know, because some of you may have some of these same concepts. We're late into month 2, and I'm happy to report that my wife still likes me. So that is a win for me, and I'm going to go with that. But as we're all just engaging more, spending a lot of quality time with folks, and probably learning a lot of new things about our families and partners during this time. To just jump into some of the stuff that's been going on with the national office and the staff, as folks know, we've made several transitions over the course of the last couple of months to do our best to ensure that we're still delivering service to folks, and to be honest, hopefully that service is actually improving. And the reason for that is not necessarily that our work is done better virtually. It's just that we've been able to bring on some new staff members, and that's actually made a big difference for us, and a chance to add capacity and start to spread out responsibilities and help just deliver programs better. So for folks that many of you haven't met yet, that haven't been around for a long time, we have Stephen Glover, who started last fall as our new Director of Membership. We have Angela Kalana, who's our Manager of Communications and Marketing. We have Melissa Lowe, who's supporting Naomi and our Certification and Professional Development Program. Very, very thankful to have Lori Razor, who worked for the Northwest office and was shared with the national office, is now working full-time with us here at the national office as of April of this year. So some great additions. We also have Linda Andriani, who's my executive assistant and providing some board support, and Susie Metz, who's our new Director of Finance and Administration. So a lot of new names and faces, and folks that are really just engaged and jump right in and doing their best to learn everything they can about SAF and how to provide the best service to members. So really excited to have them on board and know that they're doing some great work for all of you in the background. One of the things, just as we look at I know there's been a quick question on the Q&A, but I'll just chime in. We're up to about 171 folks attending, so thanks. It's a great turnout so far, and we'll hopefully have more chime in later. Also, I've looked at the participant list, and just want to say thanks to the past presidents, the past CEO/executive vice presidents that are on the call. I think just having your support means the world to me, and I know to our members, and the work that you've done in the past and the work that you're still doing for SAF and for forestry. So just a quick thank you, as I see some names popping up that are very familiar. So thank you for that. The other piece I'd like to share with folks is, of course, various things we've been doing related to COVID-19. And there's been some interesting opportunities there. We've been able to work mostly virtually from home. The few things that you've seen some updates on our website about have been that we weren't doing store fulfillments on a regular basis just because of access to the office. So we're getting that ramped up a little bit. So folks who've made orders should see those things arriving at their homes or at the addresses they provided to us. So that's a big plus. But as you've seen on the Certified Forester webpage, obviously making some big changes there, knowing that testing centers are down, events that have been canceled and haven't been made virtual may have no opportunity for CFEs, or maybe a reduced number of CFEs. So definitely opportunities that we're looking at and providing guidance for folks on how we're allowing some longer time frames and to account for some of these challenges with COVID-19. So that's been a couple of big things. Of course, there are aspects related to our convention, which I'll talk about in just a second. But one other quick COVID update is we've definitely had various questions from universities regarding accreditation and the timelines associated with that. We've had, I believe it's at least 2, and I think we have a 3rd scheduled of a virtual site visit for accreditation. So that's a very new experience, and so far those have managed to work out. I think folks still actually like the opportunity to be there in person though. So a lot of things in that arena. Definitely want to touch on convention. Of course, lots of questions there. And I have some of the answers, and there will definitely be more answers forthcoming. So most importantly, we've picked a vendor and to actually be the online platform that'll host our convention. That vendor is Partners, and actually it works out really well for us. If that name sounds slightly familiar to some of you, that's because Partners is the same company that we work with to provide Forest Ed. So that's a similar type of platform that you use to log into this event and register for this event. So so really looking forward to expanding that relationship and providing a great convention virtually for folks. And as Tammy mentioned, it's definitely not the same of the face-to-face interactions and some of the being able to tell some of the stories that you normally get to tell and see faces in some cases that you only get to see once a year. But I think there's some great interactive opportunity there. So really looking forward to how that's going to play out for us. Now that we've selected a vendor, we'll be able to finalize an overall budget. And so of course that will direct us to make changes to our registration costs and what we're going to be offering and the related sponsorship packages and exhibitor costs. So a lot more information is going to start flowing now that we've been able to go through several demonstrations and really look for a platform that's going to best meet the needs of SAF and our convention and our participants. So I think that's going to be a great opportunity coming forward. And so there's going to be a lot of information on that flowing from us in the near future. But really excited about that opportunity. Like Tammy, I've gone to I believe it's almost 20 straight conventions. So this will be different, but I'm still going to count this one. It still counts, and I'll still participate in convention and be really excited about that opportunity. So really looking forward to that as well. Of course, one of my favorite subjects is by far the SAF building. When I took the job, I was definitely made aware, hey, the building's for sale and you need to find us a new home. So that's a great way to start off a new career in a new sector of the profession, and definitely took to that and have put a lot of energy into it. Definitely learned more about commercial real estate than they taught me in forestry class, but so far so good. So for those of you that haven't seen the announcements, we officially closed on selling the building on April 13th. And so a organization called Hope Connections for Cancer. It's an organization that provides various support to cancer patients. A lot of it is physical fitness and wellness type opportunities for folks and being mindful of the condition that they have. So they are now officially our landlord, and we're working with them. And over the course of the next 6 months or so, we have the ability to lease back the space from them as we work through that transition for us and selecting a new location and also orchestrating the move. So, originally we had hoped to kind of set up some type of celebration of the space. Of course, with COVID-19, we're not quite sure how that's going to play out, but whatever opportunity we can create, we'll definitely create for folks to really have a proper send-off for the 50 plus years we spent in the Grosvenor Mansion and the Pinchot building. So more to come. Definitely, I know there's questions about where we might go. And of course, there was a survey back in 2017, and we had strong support from membership that we should be in the DC metro area. So that's where I've been looking. Going to be discussing that more in detail with the board next week, and really looking forward to settling on a space and being able to really engage through that new space, our ability to engage our national partners and really showcase what role SAF plays and how that comes into the grand scheme of supporting the profession of forestry and all of our members and even those folks that aren't our members. So the building sale has gone well. We're coming up also with a strategy for the proceeds and how best to utilize those proceeds over the coming years. So again, wanting to be thoughtful of that kind of, for lack of a better term, windfall and how we make the best use of that and have it sustain the organization over time. So know that we're being very thoughtful about these funds that we're entrusted with on behalf of the organization. Let's see, last but not, well, actually we've got a couple of other things. So like Tammy, my first year and definitely coming into the second year, a lot of travel that was planned initially, especially in these first 4 months. A lot of state society meetings and partner meetings happened during this time. And obviously that changed pretty quickly, but still was able to make it to a couple of meetings. So thank you to AppSAF for that opportunity to come down and speak with members, and same thing to California SAF. Had a great time and meeting folks and just discussing various things related to forestry and related to SAF. Learned a lot, so that's always fun for me for a chance to get out. And as Tammy mentioned, also it's a chance to interact with students is always important for me as well. Actually, right before we needed to close down the office for COVID-19, I had a chance to go down and spend a few days with faculty, staff, and students at University of Georgia. And they were going to be the first on a tour of a couple of universities this year, a couple of college campuses, possibly some of our technical schools as well. Last year, I made it out to about 3 schools and just had a really great time interacting with students and just talking with them about what's important for them, looking at their studies, looking at their careers, looking at the profession of forestry and what it means to them. So great opportunities and happy to engage. Even with things going virtual, there's still been a couple of great opportunities. And so I've had a chance to take advantage of a couple of those. Just last week, myself and actually Tammy as well, were participating in the Colorado-Wyoming virtual business meeting. So that was a fun experience. And I know there are a couple more of those coming up. And so looking forward to participate in those and just have a chance to engage with our members. Also had a chance for one of my alma maters, the University of Florida. I was invited to talk with prospective students as an alumni and represent forestry and natural resources. So as those different opportunities come up, I think it's really just crucial for us to have a face out there and showcase that forestry is an option for folks and a chance to just engage even through different platforms like this. I think are great opportunities. So looking forward to more of that. And if any of you are having some virtual meetings, don't hesitate to reach out. I'll try to make as many as I can because it's always just fun for me to have a chance to talk with folks. With that, I definitely want to leave as much time as possible for questions. So I do want to just say that one of the important pieces for us and all that we do and all that we bring to the table as SAF is that ability to support folks in different ways. So just know that, especially in this world of registration and licensure and certification, our ability to deliver CFEs and deliver content just when folks are not able to get out and engage in some of the in-person opportunities and workshops like they have before. We continue to try to put as much information as we can on Forest Ed. So in the coming weeks, coming months, there's going to be more opportunities on Forest Ed. Both there are going to be some of those that have a price associated with them, and there are going to be some more free content. So, in the near future, we'll be adding another 40 presentations from the 2018 convention. That'll put us at 220 presentations that are free for folks. So again, just a chance for either our members or even sharing with those folks that aren't members the chance to just get on Forest Ed, learn about forestry and natural resources and not have to pay for it, just a chance to engage and learn more. Similarly, some of the other content, as many of you know, journal forestry quizzes, we've seen quite our fair share and a little bit of an uptick of folks taking those to get their CFEs taken care of. So thanks for that, and we'll keep those rolling in for you. And then also, just different opportunities for relationships. We continue to look for those opportunities that are going to be most beneficial to our members, whether it be around leadership in some cases, and we're having some of those initial discussions, looking at some more focused forestry content. Great opportunity upcoming from OFRI out in Oregon and related to herbicide use. So continue to look at ways that we can provide information, help folks' professional development, help current students, and help the general public. The course we have a Project Learning Tree associated with, teaching youth and communities about forestry, I think is a great opportunity just to have that intro and to learn the basics. And we all know that makes a huge difference when folks can just understand the basics of why we do what we do, to not necessarily look at us with a stern eye based off of presumption. So we continue to look at those opportunities, and I encourage you to continue to look at those and share those where you can, because I think it's meaningful for us as SAF and it's meaningful for us as a profession. And so we can jump into some other questions. Just want to say thank you again to everyone. It's been quite the roller coaster over this first almost 2 years of my time here at SAF, and I'm enjoying the ride and learning a ton, and looking forward to just engaging and talking with all of you more and continuing to build the organization that we all want and we hope for. So thanks, and we'll move on to the next step with some questions from Danielle, I believe.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Terry and Tammy. We'll jump into the Q&A now. So if you have additional questions, again, the icon at the bottom that says Q&A, feel free to type in there. But otherwise, I'm going to start off with a question for Tammy that was submitted earlier that asks, how can SAF help me advance in my forestry career?
Sure. So one of the best ways I can tell you is just thinking about kind of how I view SAF's role in my career. I started in SAF as a student at the University of Florida, and found that anytime I was looking for an internship, I was asked. But more importantly, I was able to say, I'm an SAF member and I'm participating and I'm leading this particular committee, or I'm the chapter chair. Being able to put that out there gave me just that little bit of edge, showing that I was willing to go a little bit further than some people. Every time I went somewhere after that, and I've moved around a little bit in my career. I've been in multiple locations. Almost every time it wasn't me going out and looking for a position. It was my connections that brought the position to my attention. And so what I view SAF's role in my career has really been helping me be connected. This is a really small profession. I mentioned my college freshman. She's in the College of Engineering. She's going to have to fight tooth and nail for anybody to know who she is. When you're in forestry and we're in this smaller population, it is somewhat about who you know, especially on the front end, trying to get your foot in the door. If you know somebody and they can think about you, and the way you get those connections is through SAF, going to chapter meetings, being active at the state level if possible, if not, serving on a committee. All of those things help you make the connections with the people that know other people. It's that web that you're looking for of support. And for me, at least, I view SAF as helping me create that support network. I didn't grow up in a forestry family. My dad still doesn't quite get what I do, sadly. But what this does is it has connected me to people all over the country. And if I was looking to go somewhere, I knew somebody there. If I had a student looking for there, I had a connection over there that I could call on and say, what do you have? So I think that's what this does for you, is SAF helps you make those connections to move you along if and when you're ready.
Thanks, Tammy. Terry, do you have anything to add to that?
Nope, I think Tammy, you did a great job.
Excellent. All right. Well, Terry, I'll jump in for you. You covered this a little bit with an update about the SAF convention, but I just wanted to, someone else also just wanted to highlight how we're going to take advantage of this opportunity to get in some new participants, considering the fact that, the SAF convention, the way it current usually is pretty expensive and sometimes can be, a little exclusive. So how are we making it more inclusive?
Well, I think there are several parts to that answer. I think that just as you mentioned, the reality that we won't be traveling, so those travel costs will not be an inhibitor to folks as far as their participation. And just I think from some of the broader conceptual things that we're thinking about, when we have a convention, everyone's in the same place, which means that everyone's in the same time zone. And that may seem like a little thing, but when we're starting to plan for this virtual event, it's like, okay, how are we going to try to account for as many time zones as possible? So it's being thoughtful about some of those things as far as how we can make the live, especially the live portions of the event, the convention, accessible to folks. Of course, in the grand scheme of things, pricing. And so again, like I mentioned, how we look at, now that we have a platform selected and the other components associated with putting on a virtual convention, marrying that up with what we need to bring in as far as income to cover those costs is part of our responsibility. And so it's going to be, that's going to be different, and we're going to be taking that into account and sharing that with folks. So I think that will again help with it. With it being a virtual meeting, again, it's all in how we continue to try to market and communicate that, and that's coming from our office, but that's also coming from our members. Folks will be able to share this information as readily as they want, and it's, our convention is open to non-members for just that reason, to help get them engaged and develop a level of understanding about, what we do as forestry professionals and what's important to us and what's going on in our world right now. So, so I think that those are a few items, is just in that ability to share. We're also, one of the key things that we're looking at is our ability to have content available to folks for longer term. So the ability to look at or to listen to a webinar, watch a webinar or a workshop that takes place during the few days that we're going to have the convention, 3 or 4 days. After that happens, I think is going to be a great opportunity for folks. So it's not, you have to drop everything during a set number of hours. There will be live components of the event, but there are also going to be some pre-recorded components. And so the ability to have access to that after the event, which we're still working on the timing of that with our in-person conventions, but I think that's going to help with accessibility as well. So yeah, I think, and we're still putting that plan together. So there's going to be some new opportunities and things of that nature, just on how we connect to people and how we share what's going on with convention, and just definitely make it known to folks that this is a great opportunity and one that we haven't had in the past. I think one of the crucial things for me is, we're thinking about this around so many other aspects for ourselves personally and professionally, but I'm really curious to see how this convention plays out, and then what that means for our future conventions. I know there's questions about accessibility for our current situation and putting on a virtual event, but I think there are going to be some great questions, some great learning, and some changes that we can look at making for future events that may be more of a hybrid event that allows people to continue to participate virtually when convention is not in close enough proximity where it's financially feasible. So I think there's just a lot that we're going to get to learn from this event, while just experiencing something different and having, a certain level of engagement that we all look forward to associated with our annual convention.
Great, thanks, Terry. Tammy, I just had a question come in that I thought maybe you would be interested in. So it asks, what are the ways that students can contribute to SAF outside of the SAF chapter clubs on campus?
Sure, that's a great question. So there are a couple of different ways to be involved. A lot of, if you're really just looking to attend meetings, if that's your involvement level, most of the local chapters would welcome your attendance at their meetings. Some are sending invitations to those student chapter members. I know here in the Corvallis area, the Mary's Peak chapter is very outright inviting students to come. They cover breakfast for the students. It's an early morning meeting. And so they get a healthy population of students to show up because it's before classes, so it doesn't interfere. Other chapters do that around the country as well. So if that's what you're looking for, that is available. Most are not going to turn you down, even if you just show up. Outside of that, there are other opportunities. Each board of directors district, so SAF is set up in districts across the country. So within that district, each district has a student representative that serves to the student executive committee, and then one of those members of the student executive committee is a non-voting member on the board of directors. And so Elliot Smith is our current, starting June 1, will be our current representative to the board of directors. And so that is a way to get engaged at a different level. Those students tend to talk about overarching issues that we see from coast to coast as far as how student chapters operate. They also talk about fun and exciting things that they can do at convention. And I'm sure one of the challenging things that they're having right now is, what does that now look like for them? So they'll be participating in those conversations. Outside of that, the student chapter chairs in a lot of state societies and even at the local chapter levels are often asked to sit in on the executive committee meetings, to kind of speak for the students, but also to take information back to the students about things that are going on. Sometimes you just have to ask. Often we're trying to fill seats in different places, and it's really easy to go to the people you know. And as professionals, that's who we know. If I know someone at Weyerhaeuser or the Forest Service, they're probably still there 2, 3, 4 years later. The challenge with students is that turnover. And so while I might know a student at a university, if I go back a year later, I'm looking for a different student. And so put yourself out there. If you're a student and you want to get engaged, put yourself out there, reach out. If you're having trouble connecting, I'm going to challenge you to talk to the faculty advisor, talk to the board representative for your district. They're all listed on the SAF website, and it tells you what the districts are, so you don't have to guess. If you're looking for a way to get engaged, we want you to tell us you're ready to get engaged. Because one of the hardest jobs that I found this year was putting people on committees, finding people who were willing to give their time. And so if that's you as a student wanting to get engaged, then you need to reach out and let somebody know that. You probably won't be turned down.
Thanks, Tammy. Along those lines, we'll just stick with that. There's some questions about keeping members involved, especially at the local unit level, if these in-person meetings continue to be impossible or impractical. So any thoughts on that? And then Terry, you can jump in too.
Yeah, so Terry mentioned the virtual meetings, and I'll give props to those of you that have done it. I know it seems really scary to set up that virtual meeting, and you'll have some reluctant members. If your leadership sets one up, go attend. We're all making some mistakes at some level in these either Zoom meetings or Microsoft Teams or whatever it is. But the point is that people are getting connected. And so, I sat in on the Colorado-Wyoming Executive Committee with Terry for multiple hours. We've done the board meeting that way. I know the Tillamook chapter on the Oregon coast. I actually did a COVID presentation for them. So people are doing their own chapter meetings that way. And so if you haven't done it, realize that all this is, you're missing these meetings that you would normally have. There are ways to do it. I mentioned earlier the mock interviews. I think that's probably one of the coolest ideas I've heard, and it wasn't mine, is that if your chapter is looking for something to do to be engaged, reach out to the student chapter and offer to do some mock interviews. Interviewing on Zoom or Skype is a very different setup than sitting there and doing it in person. And a lot of them have learned how to do it in person. Some of them are now learning how to do it on Skype. And I think if you were to reach out and say, hey, let's do a mock one to give you some feedback to make them more comfortable, I don't think you'd be turned down by the students at that offer. One of the other ideas I had, we've all heard of book clubs. I'm certainly not suggesting a book club, although we're probably all reading a little bit more. But what about discussing an article? As a chapter, pick an enticing article out of the latest Journal of Forestry or Forest Science, have everybody read it, and then have a Zoom meeting and kind of discuss some of it. Find something that has a little bit of controversy, make it interesting. So, Terry, you got any other thoughts?
No, I think that those are great ones for that piece of just being engaged. And I just like Tammy mentioned, I think some of this for me is even that thought process around just community. And it actually, to a certain extent, it reminds me of last year when a lot of federal workers were furloughed for the better part of a month, or maybe a little bit over a month. And one of the things, and I was sent a message out to state society chairs, but I think that, in Montana, they just had a chapter meeting, and it was, and again, this was in person, but something you can, again, try to relate a little bit differently on Zoom. It was just a get together. It was just a chance for people to talk, just like we're doing this town hall right now. It can be focused like an article discussion. It can be, or it can just be a few minutes to be able to just have a community around you that understands some of the challenges that you're facing, and that you can be honest with, and that can be supportive of you in a moment. It doesn't take, a whole lot of technological tech savvy. It doesn't have to be 2 hours, but just, a few minutes to just check in on folks and see how they're doing. sometimes it's good to be able to vent to someone who understands, and we all have those moments. But also sometimes it's good to just share, what you're doing and how that's helping things work out a little bit better. So, I mean, I think that it can be very focused. It can be a little bit open and flexible, and it doesn't, and I think more so than anything else, it just doesn't have to be overly produced. It's just what's most important is that chance to have a connection during what's obviously a very, very difficult and different time for us right now.
Before you go on, Danielle, somebody put something, I peeked, sorry, somebody put something in Q&A that made perfect sense to me, and I will not take credit for it. On the question about what students could do to be engaged, was to offer to run social media for some of the local chapters, or even the state society. And that's a really brilliant idea, because having tried to do that myself, that is one of the more challenging things for some of us. And we just don't look at it quite the same way. And so if you're skilled in that way, reach out and tell your chapters that.
Great point. I'm going to jump a bit. Terry, there's some questions about our involvement in the urban and community forestry realm. So I was wondering if you want to touch on, is SAF's involvement in that going to grow? And if so, how will we distinguish ourselves from the International Society of Arboriculture?
Okay, that's a few questions loaded into one, but happy to touch on a few of those items for folks. I've got some notes, so if you see me looking away, it's to grab my notes, because there's quite a few things to talk about. So I think one of the most important things is, folks realize, one, that we have an agreement with ISA, the International Society of Arboriculture. And so I have a great working relationship with their executive, Caitlin Polahan. Actually, we just scheduled another call for next week. So we check in a few times a year with each other, and then meet at various events just to check in on various issues and things that are going on. So Caitlin's a great resource, and I think we have a great working relationship. I think for us going forward, I think there is opportunity for SAF to grow, and in conversations I've had with some other folks, there is a difference between looking at arboriculture in the very, very traditional sense, and managing an urban ecosystem. And I think that's where we have a space with our accredited degree program in urban forestry, and a few other efforts that we have going on. I think that we just have some great synergy there that we can build off of each other versus potentially trying to take away from each other. I think it's definitely a both and versus an either or with us and ISA, and I think there's some great opportunities to move forward with that. To go even a step farther, I think that we've had a lot of involvement with an organization or a group, actually a coalition here in DC for many years that most folks may not be aware of. So the Sustainable Urban Forest Coalition. It's been working here in DC for over 10 years, and SAF has been a part of that group, really focused on urban forestry issues, and how to move those different policy challenges and just overall challenges forward. And we've been a part of that for a very long time. Actually, right now, Danielle Watson serves in a leadership role in that group. So continue to just really be engaged in these different issues, and how we play a role in that as SAF, from a policy standpoint, and to a certain extent from an implementation standpoint. And of course, there's questions about the urban forestry credential. So I was made aware of that within my first year, and definitely try to delve into what opportunities are there, what we signed up for, and what does that translate to, and what does that mean. So for those of you that are very interested in that, and some of you who may not have heard of that, we'll definitely be reaching out, doing some market research to refresh what was done several years ago to really look at the level of interest in regards to an urban forestry credential, and how that would work with some of our partner organizations like ISA and the Society of Municipal Arborists. So those conversations are happening, and there's going to be some movement on that. I know folks have been waiting for a long time, and all I can say is, unfortunately, there wasn't a lot of good transition and movement over the past few years, but it's something I'm very aware of, and something I definitely want to move out on to make good on our word, working with the folks out in California. So there will be more coming out this year on that, and excited to see how that looks. And really just that piece of how do we tie urban and community forestry together, as you have, arborists, you have urban planners, you have landscape architects. I think there's some great synergy there, and how do we start to create that synergy for those folks. And in addition to urban forestry in more generic terms, we've worked with the U.S. Forest Service through a grant and provided some opportunities at our recent conventions and some opportunities with other partners to really bring some more emphasis to that profession and as a part of the forestry community as a whole. So there's a lot going on, and there's definitely going to be a lot more. And I think it is an important part of all the aspects of what we do, managing forests from rural locations to urban ones. And we have a responsibility, and a lot of our members are engaged in both work. So looking forward to how we get to do more of that and meet those different expectations.
Awesome, thanks, Terry. Tammy, so has SAF made any progress in becoming more welcoming, inclusive, and how do you see us continuing those efforts in the future?
Yeah, I definitely think we've made progress. It wouldn't be fair to say that it's perfect. Of course, there are people who are still not comfortable. There are people who are still not as welcoming and inclusive. And that's true of society in general right now. But I think it's incumbent on us as leaders, when we're looking for people to fill out committees, when we're looking at people to run for different positions within SAF, to be looking outside our own demographic, to be filling those committees with people from all different backgrounds as far as where they're from, what they do, male, female, just the broad spectrum, age demographics, everything needs to be represented, because we're going to be stronger and more welcoming and more inclusive the more the people that are making decisions within these committees look like our population. It takes time. You can't wave a magic wand and make an organization welcoming to everybody immediately. We're trying. I definitely feel like it's come a long way. I've heard stories. I've been at meetings where, there's some cringeworthy moments. I see less of them. So I think there's that. But it's just where we are as a society overall, and we're evolving and getting better. And I think SAF is making strides to be more inclusive. You saw we put together that anti-harassment statement last year to kind of address behaviors, and people, not everybody believed we needed that, even within the board. But it's really just kind of, having that out there, that this is who we are as an organization, and we're not going to tolerate behavior that makes other people uncomfortable. So that's unfortunately probably the best I can say right now, is that we continue to keep it in mind, and we continue to try to strive forward. Terry, I don't know if you have any other.
Sure. No, thanks, Tammy. I think that was a great answer, and it is, it's a challenge. We have a profession that is, in our own words, predominantly a monoculture, and so that's something that we need to be aware of, and know that the general public, who's the voting public, who drafts policy and drafts ordinances and things like that all affect our work. That those folks are those demographics are changing, and we're not quite changing with it. So we do have a responsibility of how we showcase the opportunities for folks from different backgrounds to participate in and be a part of forestry, both from just a level of understanding to being a forester or natural resource professional. I think that there's some real importance there, and we've got some work to do. Like Tammy said, there are some difficult stories out there, and I've experienced some myself in my career, and so there's the ability to look at that and to grow from it, not to sit and point fingers. And so that's really where my mindset is. I think, like Tammy mentioned, getting that anti-harassment statement in place, coupled with our diversity and inclusion statement, and tying those particular statements of ours to our code of ethics, so that when someone does conduct themselves inappropriately, we can take action as an organization. So folks have to step up to give us the place and the opportunity to actually take action, and we can do that in a meaningful way. So it's a challenge, like many challenges that we have, and as Tammy put, it's a challenge that our entire society has. So we just continue to work on it. It is That is one of those things that it's not a specific percentage. I know some folks a lot of us are scientifically minded. So what's the number? If we can just get to the number, then everything's okay. This isn't so much about the number. This is about the journey. This is about how we treat people. This is how we engage with each other. And that's the thoughtful piece of this. And so we make the effort to continue to work towards it and make meaningful strides. And so I think that we all have a part to play in that, because myself or Tammy can't be everywhere all the time. And so we've all got to just be willing to take care of each other, and also be willing to reach out to folks who may not know what we do, and just take the time to talk to them about it, and show them that, there may be a space for them with us. Oftentimes we talk about being welcoming, and that's great, but we're welcoming once someone gets here. Part of being truly welcoming and being inclusive is being willing to step out beyond our circle of folks and just engage and have a conversation. We're all very passionate about what we do, and that comes across when we talk. So there's almost nothing better that we can do than engage with folks. So thanks for that question. I think it's a really important one that we truly have to work with and find solutions.
Great. Excellent. We're getting close to our time, but since there's also some policy questions that came in, and I'm a policy person, I'm going to end it on a policy question, if that's okay, Terry. So I wanted to see if you could touch on just your thoughts on how SAF National and the members can also be more effective in the policy arena.
All right. You keep giving me these compound questions. It'd be great if you could pass one of those over to Tammy. No, it's that's a great question. I mean, our ability to not only serve our members, but also to work in the realm of policy and advocacy is such an important part of our mission that we do our best to be thoughtful about. So I think that, just to jump into this, what are some of those opportunities for folks to be engaged, and I'll kind of close with some of the things going on nationally. I think one of those things is first and foremost, if you have a state policy chair or a state policy committee for your state society, that's a great place to start. And if you don't have one and you're really interested in policy, or you want to get engaged in policy, then work with some of your state leadership and start a policy committee. I think that those are great opportunities for folks to step into some leadership roles and really learn about what goes on in the world of policy and advocacy. Both if they exist or if they don't exist or will newly exist, they're taking the time and looking at, what bills are out there associated with forestry and natural resources within your state. Relationships is one of the key things in the world of policy. And I know I experienced this a great deal in my time in the Forest Service. So figuring out ways to engage local legislators and in some cases even state legislators, I think are some great opportunities to start to build those relationships, because that helps create the opportunity for us to be some of those subject matter experts that folks come to and ask questions about what is going on with forestry, natural resources. Another great resource for state society, state policy committees is the ability to take advantage of our national policy position statements. A lot of great work goes into those. They're revisited every 5 years and updated if need be. And so a chance to just have some foundational documentation on what the national stance is for SAF in regards to various policy issues is always a great place to just start to build what you might do locally. And also know that we want you to check in with Danielle to make sure nothing you do locally contradicts what we've said nationally. So definitely be thoughtful about that piece for us and stay in good communication with us. Nationally, we work on various items, multiple coalitions. That concept that we talked about a little bit earlier with the Urban Forestry Coalition is very similar to other aspects of work that we engage in, and that is we're a very specialized profession. And what I mean by that is you have the economics aspect of forestry, you have agroforestry, you have urban forestry, you have folks who are worried about or focused on forest products. And so that's great to really address specific needs, but then when it comes to items or concerns that affect the entire profession, and that we can come together in these coalitions and really make a unified statement, those are truly critical. And those are things that we oftentimes put a lot of our energy into within SAF, and with Danielle's time and some of my time, is that being a part of some of these coalitions on national, in some cases international issues, is truly important because it brings that collective voice that makes a difference when you're talking to legislators and saying that this is something that's important across the entire profession. It's not one of us, it's all of us that are really focused on climate change potential issues or reforestation issues or any of these types of things, that there are coalitions that are built around for us to try to be more effective as a profession as a whole versus as an individual organization representing one aspect of the profession. So that's where we put quite a bit of our time to really maximize the effectiveness of our voice. Of course, working with the Committee on Forest Policy on those position statements and not just renewing what we've done over all these years, but really looking at, I really want to applaud Rebecca Bernard and several folks we have on the Forest Policy Committee, because they've been really proactive in saying, here's some issues that we don't think are really covered well with our current position statements. Let's have some discussions with the board of directors about how we might introduce some new position statements. And that's been awesome to be a part of and to see some of that start to take root and start to grow within the organization. So a lot's going on within policy, and just as much as we have a place to engage in it at a national level, everybody on this call has the opportunity to engage with it at the state or the local level. Last but not least, nationally, I do want to mention that where we have engaged on some state level things is actually around certification. And that's been a great opportunity. Recently, we worked with folks within Vermont and on legislation to actually have a state certification in Vermont for forestry. And we're currently working with Ohio. So hopefully we'll be 2 for 2 in the not too distant future. But policy is definitely one of those pieces, like I mentioned, the relationship aspect of it. It's the long game. It's really building those relationships, building that trust, being the subject matter expert, and having the opportunity to continue to influence some of those policy decisions that are going to be helpful to us as a profession, or at least not detrimental. So it takes work, it takes time, and in a lot of ways it takes all of us. So if you're interested in policy, definitely reach out to Danielle. She's happy to help you. If you've got a state policy committee, definitely engage those folks. They'll be happy to bring you on. There's a lot of work to do. There always is. There seems to be more going on in the world of policy these days than anything else. So there's a lot of opportunity there. So just take advantage of it. We are engaged as SAF, and you may not see us standing alone in some cases, and that's by design, because we can do a lot more together. So with that, yeah, I think that covers it, Danielle.
Awesome. I think that's a perfect way to wrap it up a little bit. And I do realize there are so many unanswered questions. And so I want to thank everyone again for submitting those. We'll do our best, like I said, afterwards to get some of the common questions out there, and we'll let you know when those are addressed. Other than that, I want to thank everyone again for attending. And this has been a really great first event. Like I said, we'll be in touch with follow-up with some of the questions and also the recording, so you can either watch it again or share it with your colleagues. Tammy or Terry, you have any closing remarks quickly, even though we're out of time?
Thanks for attending, everyone. Stay healthy and do your best to stay connected to all of us.
Yep, I'd echo the same thing. Thanks for taking the time. It was a lot of fun for me, and looks like I've got a lot of questions to answer. So looking forward to that, and definitely, folks, just stay safe out there and take care of yourselves and your families.